without further ado, we are very, very excited to have Barb here today, and she will be speaking to us about top trends in career building. So Barb is the career coach at the University Advising and Career Development Center at EMU. So without wasting any more time, I will go ahead and hand it over to her. Over to you, Barb.
Thank you so much, Catherine. And thank you all for being here today. I really appreciate you taking out the time. I am going to be covering an area that employers have expressed concern with over what we want employers to receive from our students and new grads. Career building is basically the idea of, are you career ready, right? So I want to just discuss what career readiness looks like throughout this. But I'll just cover for a second what our office offers. We have academic advisors for general advising here, so pre-college admissions. Career coaches assist with major selection, decision-making, maybe minors, maybe pairing those, changing your mind. We help with all those conversations. And then we have job and internship specialists who assist with resumes, cover letters, job search, how to network. So everything professional development wise when you're getting ready to job search, internships as well as full-time. And we have an abundance of resources housed in Handshake. So if you're ever looking for resume samples, we have a resume checklist in there, tools that we use and provide you, such as Going Global, Quincia for resume, screening resumes to make sure they're clearing applicant tracking systems is in there as well. We have podcast recordings in there. So there's an abundance of resources in the resource library. We help with interview prep. We offer a lot of job fairs. We have a job fair coming up November 8th, this Wednesday. So keep that in mind. If you're looking for an internship or full-time job, Handshake has that fair in it. You can research and explore who's going to be there, what they're recruiting for, and if that will be of any interest to you for you to attend. And there's enough information for you to be prepared to approach those recruiters if you're interested. And then on-campus student employment paperwork is another part that we handle. It's done in our office. So if you ever did an I-9 or worked on campus, you did that process through our office. So we're also right down the hall from, excuse me, Chick-fil-A. So not hard to find. All right. So
and the clothes closet, right?
The career closet, absolutely.
Oh, yes.
The career closet has been such a surprisingly hot commodity. I'm so glad it got up and running the way it did. So 4 pieces free per semester per student. So by the time you're done with school, you could absolutely have a full wardrobe. If you go shopping every semester, that's a lot of pieces. So definitely check it out. It's just, I think it's room 252. It's right down the hall, 251, something like that. But it's all in glass so you can see it. All right, so now I'm going to get to start covering the topic. So what is career readiness? It is a foundation from which to demonstrate requisite core competencies that broadly prepare the college educated for success in the workplace and lifelong career management. This is coming right from NACE. If you haven't heard of NACE, NACE is what a lot of employers use to identify what is career readiness, what are those competencies. So what they've identified and what we try to stay in alignment with when helping students and graduates is to make sure that these competencies are considered at all times. How are we helping you develop them, strengthen them, encouraging that? And within the classroom, you're learning this long before you start working, right? So career and self-development, this starts in high school, sometimes grade school. You do different activities. What do you want to be when you grow up, kind of stuff. And then you've got communication, which of course is the bedrock of everything that we do in life. Communication, be it verbal, nonverbal, all of those things. Critical thinking is just so essential. And when it's missing, it's very clear. So we want these things to start being honed in the classroom in your projects and work activities, as well as taking what you learn in the class to the workforce. Equity and inclusion, leadership. A lot of times leadership can be gained from student organizations and things of that nature. Professionalism. This could happen at anywhere, volunteering, internships, in the classroom, in Just professionalism can come in so many forms and fashions that it's really kind of hard to pin. Teamwork, I know you've probably all had a group activity that you've done that is an introduction to teamwork. So when we are not the biggest fans of group activities, they are definitely a tool to be used and learned from. What it does for you is kind of priceless, I would have to say. I've been in those shoes. I know that sometimes it can be frustrating, but that is also, you can't get away from learning how to do it because it is everywhere you go. And technology is a bigger component than it ever used to be. So that's something that we want to always keep in mind. Are you keeping up with the times? All right, so item 1, professionalism. Once employed, as you interact in the workplace. So I'm just reading these out, but I want to talk a little more about them afterwards. So as you interact in the workplace or virtually online, you'll become more aware of so-called office do's and don'ts. Each work environment does have nuances though. So you want to keep in mind, you're always, again, nonverbal communication, you're paying attention, right? You're noticing differences in this work environment to this one. It's critical since it influences how others are going to perceive you and the organization, right? So many companies, in order to ensure their employees embrace the highest ethical and professional standards, they're always trying to align you with their visions, values, and goals, which is really ultimately, if you're always supporting that, then you're going to present in a professional way, right? So there's really a way of thinking about what your job means. So if I'm being a professional, what does that mean to me? A lot of people define this a lot of different ways, but being a professional is being a representative of your organization. Okay. So if I'm representing Eastern, I may be at Dairy Queen and I just came from an event and forgot to take my name tag off. And they're like, oh, you work at Eastern? That is not a moment for me to say something bad about my company, right? That is a moment to promote and be professional and encourage people to, yeah, you're just always presenting as a marketing piece for them and professionally. Because anytime you could post something on a social media site that could really turn things to a negative for you quickly if you put something not positive about a company that you work for online. So everything about what you do is professionalism. So what it looks like at work, sometimes, you got to think about a lot of different areas. So if I'm professional, I have to be dependable, right? I have to complete tasks on time and always keep in line with organizational expectations. Maintaining that positive brand, having an attention to detail, which it's really going to curb errors and mistakes in your work. Act equitably with integrity and accountability to self, others, in the organization. This one is really big, and it is big in just the whole idea of it, right? But it's truly accountability to everything, everyone, and everything, yourself as well as everyone else. So if you make an error, you don't do your job completely, then it affects the next person in line. This then changes the whole trajectory of maybe a project completion deadline. So we want to really just be conscientious at all times that we're respecting others and being fair. Point 2, communication. Communication skills are just essential to succeeding in any work environment. You're communicating in all times, right? So if you're speaking, if you're writing, if you're texting, if you're on social media, you just have to always be a little bit more mindful. Even, for example, if you go to an event and it's a little bit, maybe not something that you want out there, but your friends tag you in a picture, then you're like, oh, well, you shouldn't have done that. Well, now it's out there, and before you can have them pull it, you just have to really be thinking about how you're presenting. And especially if you're in job search mode or getting to that point in life where it might not have mattered a couple of years prior, but then all of a sudden you're like, yeah, I really need to be paying attention. And you can do a search of yourself, search your name and see what comes up, right? So you can see if there is anything kind of derogatory or unfortunate that you might not have put out there, but somebody else tagged you in. So just keep in mind verbal, nonverbal, visual, and written. So when you're writing term papers, when you're writing, everything you're doing is representative of your communication skills. So when we're writing a resume, we say effective communication skills in a bold. They're getting your communication skills much more from just reading your whole document and how you communicated it, rather than saying you have the skill, right? Just doing the document well shows that you have the skill. So next topic. So not next topic, but we want to talk about what communication looks like in the workplace. So sometimes you got to listen more, talk less, right? So effective and active listening skills are really important. You want to communicate always clearly, concisely, so that others can understand what you mean. Sometimes we might get a little too wordy because we're not sure how to form something into a statement, or we might be trying to delivering hard information, and we tend to fluff that a lot. So just communicating in a way that is respectful, informative, acknowledging. I mean, sometimes I'll have to have other people read an email. I'm like, is this the right message that I'm delivering to the population that I'm trying to speak to? Sometimes you want to check in before you do send certain things out. And then frame communication with respect to diversity of learning styles. You really need to consider, sometimes people maybe visually, they see a chart and a graph gives them information and they absorb it differently than if it's all just in words. Ask good questions. Be conscientious of what you're thinking, what you want to know. How much can you get on your own before you ask, right? So just take some time to reflect before, because that goes into critical thinking. Like, have you spent any time thinking about the question before you asked it, right? Or did you look through the syllabus, or did you know what I mean? So we've all been there where we prematurely asked a question, maybe we were panicking or something like that. But take the time so that when you are communicating, the recipient of that knows that you were good intended and that you did do some work on your own. Critical thinking. Exercise sound reasoning to analyze issues, make decisions, and overcome problems. The individual is able to obtain, interpret, and use knowledge, facts, and data in this process and may demonstrate originality and inventiveness. This is NACE's definition of critical thinking. So you want to find an innovative solution. It might require that you identify the problem. You want to think about it critically, analyze the facts, the data you have at hand, or maybe pursue data and facts that you may not have, and options to invent solutions. So thinking about all the pieces, all the moving parts within critical thinking. We may have some knowledge, or we may have some facts, and we may be missing some data. But this is where critical thinking comes in. Well, who's involved? Who might I reach out to? Who can I collect this information from? So what does critical thinking look like in the workplace? So sometimes we can look at a problem and be a little more proactive in anticipating what might be next steps. Before we need to come up with the next steps, we could probably do that a little early if you're thinking about that proactively. Making decisions and solving problems using sound, inclusive reasoning and judgment. That's important because a lot of times people don't want to think about it. They're just like, I just want to tell somebody it's a problem. I don't know if any of you have ever heard the saying, don't just come with a problem, also come with a solution, right? So it's really a good idea to give some suggestions of, I've noticed this is going on. I'm thinking these are some ways in which we might be able to alleviate this or change this workflow. So thinking about reasonably and judgmental, not judgmental, but your judgment in reasoning out a solution can also make or break who's hearing it, how you're delivering it. And if it's given in a non-critical way, if it's more of a, this is for the good of the order, right? Effectively communicate actions and rationale, recognizing diverse perspectives and lived experiences of stakeholders. There's a lot of times in which we might know things, but it might be helpful to divert someone that might have more knowledge. And gathering a variety of diverse perspectives is really beneficial to the whole, because it brings a more inclusive and broader stroke or broader brush to something. You want to always be able to try to accurately summarize and interpret data with an awareness of personal biases that may impact outcomes. This is a big deal. This means do not look at something and decide because it's what you like or what you think that it should be a certain way. You want to really do it in a very non-personal personal. I know that can be a very hard thing to do, but you just want to take data for what it is. It is data. It is not a personal, you don't want to spin it, right? So you want to be aware of that when you're summing it up and delivering as well, that you, that any kind of a bias that's put onto information can change the outcome. All right, fourth area, teamwork. We've all done teamwork I mean, if you have siblings, there's a lot of places we do teamwork that doesn't all have to be in the workforce. NACE's definition is to build collaborative relationships with colleagues and customers representing diverse cultures, races, ages, genders, religions, lifestyles, and viewpoints. The individual is able to work within a team structure and can negotiate and manage conflict. So I'm sure that we've all been in this space of managing conflict in team spaces, and I'm sure we've all found that different personalities in a group are all going to do certain things, the same thing a different way. So sometimes the conflict is just in the differences in people. And sometimes it's a lack of communication, which is another NACE competency. So these are all things that we see show up in these environments, right? So what does it look like at work? So sometimes we want to, again, listen as much as we talk, ask appropriate questions without interrupting. So listening to others, if you give space to listen when it's time for you to speak, you can expect that same consideration. Effectively manage conflicts. So interpret with the respect of diverse personalities and meet ambiguity with resilience. Okay, what does that mean? So we want to be able to negotiate through conflict. So sometimes we need to really take in how do we analyze the situation for what it is, what is missing, what is needed, what can be changed, right? So it's analytically, we're critically thinking it through. We're really trying to tie in all those other skill sets in order to be able to make this work. So you want to be accountable, and you can see these bleeding through in others as well. Be accountable for individual and team responsibilities and deliverables. That's important because if a whole team doesn't work as a team, then you have weak links and you have strongers, and you don't want that. The conflicts come often from this accountability component. And then the way it's communicated, so that can just create more conflict. Employ personal strengths, knowledge, and talents to complement those of others. So, if you're in a group and you like to research and another person likes to write and another person likes to lead, it's probably not a good idea to have the researcher be the leader and the person that likes to write be the researcher, right? We're all then not working within our strengths. So analyzing the team for what are their preferences, where do their strengths lie, facilitate that they do the work in the space that their strengths are, because they're going to be more accountable then, because they're not going to dread doing the work and they're working within their strengths. So it's an easier ask. You want to be able to be compromising and be agile. So if someone says, I need to expand this deadline by 2 days, but when I finish, I can pick up this piece for someone else or something. You have to try to be a little agile in order to make things work. Instead of, letting everything frustrate you. You just have to be trusting in certain things getting done. And I know that can be hard for people. Collaborate with others and to achieve common goals. And build strong, positive working relationships with the team members, coworkers, supervisors, everyone. The more relationships that you're building, the stronger your network, right? And trusted coworkers and teammates that you can lean on later. All right, technology. Understand and leverage technologies ethically to enhance efficiencies, complete tasks, and accomplish goals. So this is really important, ethically, because technology has created a lot of questions where, honestly, I think in some classes, I mean, even when I was in grad school, we were like, I think the ethical part, it was a law class, I believe, where we don't even know what the ethical issues are going to be, because things hit, like Chat GPT, tools like this coming out. we are like, are we even ready for what certain things could mean to other things? So like plagiarism and right. So using technology ethically to be able to complete tasks, accomplish goals without compromising your professional integrity. Okay. So what this looks like at work is to navigate change and be open to learning new technologies. This can be tough because sometimes we feel like some things are outside of our scope and a little intimidating. But you want to try, right? You want to give it a good try. And then if you need some additional support, then you ask for it. And that's kind of, you just want to keep in mind that if you don't ask, you won't get. So you want to be a good communicator and be clear that you need some support more than maybe what the rest of the office got or something, because maybe it's just nothing's connecting for you. So, just ask and see if there's any support you can receive. So use a technology to improve efficiency and productivity. So yes, technology can make life a lot easier in a lot of ways if you're using it properly. So finding ways to do that can really make you an asset to a company. And find the right appropriate technology for completing certain tasks. So we've all probably been there where you use the wrong tool and it takes 10 times longer because it's not doing what you want it to do the way you want it to do it. So finding the appropriate technology is critical. And then managing technology to integrate information to support relevant, effective, and timely decision making. So all of this is saying, manage technology to be effective. I apologize. Quickly adapt to new or unfamiliar technologies. I like to say quickly adapt only because that's ideal in a perfect world. We're not all going to quickly adapt. But showing effort, good faith, and genuine college try is where you start. And then you have to ask if you're struggling. And then I'm sorry, I keep touching my mouse. It's sensitive. So you can manipulate information, construct ideas, and use technology to achieve strategic goals. Technology can really streamline a lot of processes. So it's important to just know that it's out there but don't extend yourself beyond your comfort level, but you do want to stretch your comfort level. Just don't snap it, right? You want to be able to use the technology you're introducing. And if you're introducing something, you're probably going to have to teach other people how to use it. So you want to make sure you have the confidence in yourself to do that. All right, leadership. So NACE's definition: recognize and capitalize on personal and team strengths to achieve organizational goals. So leadership becomes challenging even more so after you enter the workforce. So it's really important to start building those skills while you're in college. It's a great place to learn these skills. There's a lot of room for it, as well as a lot of support. So it's really a good time to start doing that when you're in college, because you don't want to be in the workforce having it be your first experience with it, because then leadership is a big part of a lot of professional growth. So if you're not showing leadership interest, that's okay. But if you want to do something in leadership or you want to elevate to that point, you don't want the workforce to be the first space you've exposed yourself to it. So it's nice to have some experience so that you don't feel like the workforce is so overwhelming because you don't have anything to offer it, right? Leaders help those under their supervision grow and develop into their best selves. So leaders are definitely, there's a lot of different leadership styles. We all know that. Really, to be a supportive leader, your purpose is to really elevate everyone that works under you, find their strengths, recognize their capacity, give them the tools they need to succeed. Keep in mind that being a leader, you want to show some humility and you want to really help people learn from choices they make, help them grow. A lot of times what I find is employers will wait until evaluation time to talk about something that they want to be, if they're concerned. Sometimes you might approach someone sooner than that if you're leading, because the sooner you can help someone identify an area that they need work, the quicker they can grow, develop, and become a stronger self and be a better employee. and grow their confidence. You don't want them waiting 6 months telling them something and they've been like, oh, you've been upset with me, you're disappointed in my work for 6 months, right? So a leader is really giving everyone the opportunity to grow and be their best self. And you don't want to be overbearing or be the loudest or speaking over everyone else just because you're the leader, right? That isn't really what leadership is about. You should be able to be supportive, be there for your employees without giving, without having any kind of negative feeling left behind in them. So what this looks like at work is inspiring and, motivating self and others using a shared vision, meaning everyone on the team should know what the goals are, right? So if we have a vision, it should be a collaborative vision. And that vision should be met by all of our initiatives together as a team. And the leader is there to motivate and persuade and inspire everyone to continue to share in that vision and make it happen. You want to seek out and leverage diverse resources and feedback from others. This is going to inform the direction that moves in. So you want to always be working on getting feedback from a team, finding resources out there that support the goal or that show there's a need for a shift because of these resources I found. Use innovative thinking to go beyond traditional methods. So this is that creativity piece, right? Find those in your team that maybe have that more intuitive mindset. So you want to kind of present yourself as a role model to others by approaching tasks with confidence and a positive attitude. So if you want to make sure that you're the representative of the expectation, right? If I expect you to behave in a certain manner, I'm going to be the first place where you see that. Motivate and inspire others by encouraging them and building mutual trust. You want a team, not subordinates, right? You want a team of people that support and believe in each other and that are all there. That team is all working towards the same goal. So you want to plan, initiate, manage, and complete and evaluate projects. So any project requires the need for you to do reflection and receive criticism, because you can stop things, you can start things, you can keep things. But if you don't evaluate them and aren't able to hear the feedback, then things don't change or get better. So you want to always ask for that help, ask for that feedback, and then make changes accordingly. 7, equity and inclusion. So cross-cultural competence refers to the knowledge, skills, and affect or motivation that enable individuals to adapt effectively in cross-cultural environments. Demonstrate the awareness, attitude, knowledge, and skills required to equitably engage and include people from different local and global cultures. So what we want to do is we're looking at all of these. So DEIAS, so diversity, equity, inclusion, access, and social justice. These are all included in equity and inclusion, okay? So what this looks like in the workplace is you want to solicit and use feedback from multiple cultural perspectives to make inclusive and equity-minded decisions. This is, I mean, this can be tricky depending on your work environment, and I understand that. You have to find that to the best of your ability in the work environment that you're in. The more diverse it is, the more effective you can be in this task. Actively contributing to inclusive and equitable practices that influence individual and systematic change. I know that this is an area where a lot of people might just feel undereducated or underaware. So that's why a lot of companies have DEI offices and chief diversity officers and things like that. Like there's a lot of space where a lot of people become intimidated by these areas and they're afraid to make a move or do anything. But you go talk to the right people and you find what is a way I can do this. So how can I make some systematic changes in an inclusive and equitable way? What are some activities I could do to do this, right? So yeah, and that's just, those are conversations you have with leadership. So you want to advocate for inclusivity, equitable practices, justice, empowerment for historical marginalized communities. You just want, this is a business practice. It should come from leadership. Definitely, it's definitely an environment that gets developed and created in a workspace. So all individuals should be practicing these things in their own personal way, as well as a corporation. So, and this starts with hiring, right? How do they hire? How do they recruit? What does leadership look for? And how is this happening? Is it happening, right? We've seen companies that it's not. Seek global cross-cultural interactions and experiences that enhance one's understanding of people from different demographic groups, and that leads to personal growth. So this is an open-minded way of working, right? You want to be able to understand other people's perspectives. What is their experience and their culture and their interactions and experiences can enhance your life, because you then can see things from a bigger perspective. Keep open-mindedness to diverse areas and new ways of thinking. This is really about listening a lot, learning, being open-minded, being respectful in the workplace. And you want to always demonstrate flexibility by adapting to diverse environments. All right. Career management as opposed to career and self-development. This is a change NACE made. So career management is the process of identifying and developing your skills with a long-term goal in mind. Figuring out your career path requires you to reflect on your workplace values, your strengths and weaknesses, and a desired title and salary in the ultimate career aspirations. So full fulfillment, right? That's like the pinnacle of success. To manage your career successfully, you'll need to understand how your experiences, skills, and knowledge are relevant as you pursue your desired career path. Career and self-development is proactively developing oneself and one's career through continual personal and professional learning, awareness of your strengths and weaknesses, and navigation of your career opportunities, and networking to build relationships within and without one's organization. So this is that development, right? So managing your career is finding your marks on the map, right, and making them happen. Career and self-development is a personal growth all the time, right? So you're personally learning, becoming more aware, strengthening those spaces in yourself. So I identify my strengths, I hone those, I address my weaknesses, I learn to keep them from becoming a deficit for me, right? So these are all growth. You're constantly professionally growing by learning. Like we talked about technology, there's always more to learn. There's always ways to grow and develop within yourself. So what this looks like, it works. So you're going to show an awareness of your strengths in areas for development. This is what evaluations are for, right? Employers will establish with you, these are some areas we want you to work on. Maybe you didn't get as high of a rating, but then you work out some plans and objectives as to how can I develop that? Give me some tools. Identify areas for continual growth while pursuing and applying feedback. So yeah, you want to grow, but you also want someone to be feeding you back. This is, you're doing well. Yes, you're thriving now, or you're better than you were. Let's try another thing. It's going along perfectly. We just need to keep working at it. Develop plans and goals for your future career. This is really about, when I work with students, a lot of times I'll say to them, we're not just picking a major, we're trying to find a career path, right? So every career is going to change, evolve, grow, develop. We might just jump ship and move to a whole nother career, right? That's okay. People change their careers all the time, but you want to have some goals for a future plan. Those plans can change, but developing the plans and the goals, it's like, how do I get to the end? I'm going to fill in the holes once I have identified what I'm aspiring to. What do I do to get there? Professionally advocate for yourself and others. Display curiosity, seek out opportunities to learn. So this could come from you just doing research around a topic you enjoy. This could be learning about opportunities through informational interviewing people. What do they do in their job? Does that sound enjoyable? Assume duties on positions that will help you progress professionally. So just because something's not in your job duties doesn't mean you can't participate in it or take a piece of it on, because that's all resume building. That's all personal career development and growth. So maintain and leverage relationships with people who can help you professionally. So this is just grow that network. You never know who's going to be your boss someday, or who could be your next leader that could move you into a space that you're interested in. And you want to seek and embrace development opportunities. Any chance you can get to learn, grow, and expand your skill sets, take that when you can. And voluntary, I'm so sorry, I'm just not going to touch the mouse. Voluntarily participate in further education, training, and other events to support your career. This is really one, a lot of times it's like, if you don't know what you want, how do you know how to develop in it, right? So that's all about creating your career, doing your career management, and then your career self-development. Sometimes we have to know what it is before we can pursue resources. These are some resources we offer, as I said, in the library, the resource library and Handshake. There's sample resumes, cover letters, additional resources, going global. This is a job search tool for both local and international work, and study abroad resources. So this really does help you with, okay, what does it look like? What kind of resume do I need if I'm going to go international for employment? How do I interview there? What's the cost of living? What are the top companies? What are job boards in that space? So it's a great tool. Quincy shows you how to track so that your resume is, it's written over top of 8 applicant tracking systems, which are basically every job board out there. And these tools, these applicant tracking systems are scrubbing documents and matching them to job postings. And if your resume isn't hitting the marks, or even if it's in a template banging into it, it's like reading it wrong and then it gets kicked out. Quincy is something we pay for to put your resume in, and it helps you. It'll flag anything that an ATS would kick it out for, and it'll recommend you fix it. So this is a tool just to benefit you and help you sidestep which most of us didn't even know was happening. Then we had the Career Corner podcast. So this I hadn't updated, but we had the major exploration fair recently. Career Development Week just passed last week. We have the fall job fair on the 8th and the career closet.